thank you everybody for coming. My name is Lee Michaels. I'm co-founder, CEO of the Archer Group, and I'm not a witch. So, if everybody could just check your phone, set them to vibrate. If you're tweeting this, we came up with the tweet hashtag of WNWN. If you don't know what a hashtag is, then it really doesn't matter. So, so thank you very much. This is the second installment to What's Now, What's Next, our conversation series. This is where we bring in authors, what we consider some of the great thought leaders. We bring them in to share with our employees and our clients and our close friends. So I really appreciate you coming out. The Archer Group, just tell you a little bit about us. If you don't know about us, then shame on you. But we're an interactive agency here in Wilmington. We're about a little over 50 people, a great mix of some of who I think are some of the greatest minds in Wilmington and the region. And of course, I'm a little biased, but that's my opinion. So we've been doing these events. The last event was a great one that we had with Mitch Joel and Chris Brogan and Julian Smith. And they came in and gave a great talk all about social media. And these guys, each one of them individually is traveling the globe, filling rooms 3 times this size on their own. We were able to get all 3 of them to the stage at once, and that was really, it was quite a coup. I was really, really excited. And just if it didn't need enough fanfare, Governor Markell, Delaware's Governor Markell, who's also not a witch, he came and he got on stage and he spoke. And he talked a little bit about how important this was. And he's been doing a great job in reaching his constituents through social media. So it was neat to have him come out and kind of say this isn't just show. This is something that he believes in as well. So we're going to continue doing these What's Now, What's Next series. We like the opportunity to sort of rub elbows with the smart people. And we're real excited as to who we have here today. But we're going to keep going with these in the future. We, in addition to the What's Now, What's Next, we've been doing something called Ignite Wilmington, and I see a lot of the similar faces to the one we had last Thursday. It's a great event. Ignite is an event that's run globally, and basically the premise of the event is you get 5 minutes to go through 20 slides that are advancing every 15 seconds, whether you're ready for that or not. And the tagline is, enlighten us, but make it quick. And it's a great way to get to see what's going on in the region. And the one that we had last Thursday, we had 150 people over at Delaware Horticulture, a beautiful venue. And people were talking about things such as the Delaware Film Co-op, the new Wilmington Art Association. One person talked about how he traded his artwork for a pair of alligator boots that he actually went down and killed the alligator in New Orleans. And then we also had somebody talk about how to decode your relationship status in the world of Facebook in 2010. So a lot of neat talks and a lot of neat conversations that we want to keep going. That was the 4th one that we had. And so we've reached over 600 people with this type of creative energy. And it's really a lot of fun. And I always end those events all more excited than I started because you see so much energy that's going on. Archer doesn't really stop at the border, the Delaware border either. TEDx Philly is an event that we're sponsoring. It's coming up in November, and it looks like it's going to be a great event. TED events are these fantastic events that are held, again, also around the globe. People get just a little under 20 minutes to talk about ideas. And TED's event focus is ideas worth spreading. And these are great thought leaders that all around. And both the speakers here today spoke at TED events somewhere in their past. So there's one coming up in November. I think you should go to TEDxPhilly.com, check it out, check out the speakers. It's the first one in Philly, first TEDx event in Philly, and it looks like it's going to be a great event. So why do we do all this? We do all this because there's so much going on. We live in such an exciting time. If you think back just a decade ago, when the web was sort of in its infancy, it was one of those things that everybody was afraid of privacy and cookies and making sure you clean your cookies on a regular basis. And so the web was something we were afraid of, and we were afraid of making sure that it was private. And it's now moved to a spot where it's tools to make us famous. My 11-year-old son is posting a YouTube video of him playing airsoft. It's incredible opportunities for people. So the generation these days are looking to use these tools not to hide themselves, but to get themselves more publicized. And so I think it's a great shift. And it's one of those things that if we had our heads down and we were just focused on dealing with cookies for the last 5 or 6 years, we would have missed this whole shift. And so that's why events like this are great for us to back up and talk. Another example of that is Wawa. If you think of them, 5, 6 years ago, Facebook was nothing but a college novelty. It was the something that people did on campus, and they met friends and stuff. Now Facebook's become a critical marketing tool for any business. Wawa has over 500,000 fans that they engage with on a regular basis, and it's a part of their marketing message. And so that's something that as we look to do marketing, it's not a traditional marketing. It's constantly changing. So events like this, I hope you take the time to listen to the speakers and sort of step back and say, what's really going on and what's happening in the future. So the speakers we have today are really accomplished speakers. John Gerzema and Kevin Kelly are the two speakers that we have. The books that you have of theirs actually just hit the street this week. Kevin was telling me that his official launch is actually Monday, so you've got these books before anybody else, and so we really appreciate them making those available to us so that you can have them. Please read them. Give some thought to what they have, what they're saying. In addition to your attention and applause today, I invite you to go on Amazon, and if you like the books, post a review. If you don't, go somewhere else. But if you do, post a review on Amazon. Let people know what you thought about this book. Let them know how it changed you. As an author myself, I always go and look to those Amazon reviews, and I always get excited when I see a new one. And I'm trying to see, what did somebody see? What chapter did I write really reach somebody? So I'm going to move over and talk about the first speaker, John Gerzema at Young and Rubicam, highly accomplished social theorist on consumerism. His last book, The Brand Bubble, was a bestseller and voted one of the best business books in 2008. His TED Talk, The Post-Crisis Consumer, has been viewed by thousands online. His latest book, Spend Shift, is a great analysis of what the future consumer will look like. If you think of, we talk a lot about depression babies, and these are people that live through the depression, and their lives and their spending habits are totally affected by that. And we probably all have grandparents that that save everything and are clipping coupons well beyond what they should be, because they grew up in a time when money was extremely scarce and you had to save everything that you had. The people that still don't put money in banks, or sometimes you can point back to that. Well, John's book talks about this, and you wonder, are consumers going to move to their free spending ways, where the consumer economy is really what has really propped up. I mean, we are a consumer economy, and it's really what's been driving our economy. So if the consumers, are they going to go back to those ways where they want to drive Hummers and they want to have conspicuous consumption, or are they going to move to a way where it's more conservative? And one of the things he says in the book is, people are preferring better instead of more. And are we going to move from the Gordon Gekko days of greed is good to just good is good, that I want something better? Another aspect of his book, which I was real excited about, was how he talks about how consumers are using their social networks to vote with their dollars. They're realizing that they can affect change by shopping at the local coffee shop. He has these great stories about Detroit, which I was sharing with the head of social at GM, who I met at a panel, who's from Detroit. And to hear her sort of validate the stories that John was talking about, how people in Detroit aren't waiting for the government to help them. They're going through and they're creating their own change. They're setting up storefronts. They're setting up these urban gardens. And the locals understand that by them shopping there locally, they're also driving change. They're driving that economic development. And so I think that's a great aspect of the book, and I can't wait to hear more about it. So with that said, I'd like to welcome John Gerzema to the stage.
Thanks. Good morning, and thanks for having me. I wanted to kind of start off with a feeling that I had off of the research that I did for this book, which is that perhaps the Great Recession was the best thing to ever happen to America. And that's a pretty kind of flip thought to say right now. I mean, clearly we're dealing with a really challenging time. We've got double-digit unemployment in many parts of the country that doesn't even mask all the other pain and suffering that has been hit with people. But in this space sort of opened up by the crisis, we're seeing tremendous innovation, tremendous innovation not only in businesses but in ordinary households as people are actually awakening to the fact that they're having a different relationship with their consumerism and a different sort of relationship with how they think about their lives moving forward. So we're going to touch on some of those themes quite quickly around this concept of reinvention and talk a little bit about sort of the things that we see. I should say for the book, I partnered with a writer, and the two of us went out and we spent basically a year on the foundation of our data traveling the country. And we went to, I think it was 10 red states and 10 blue states. And basically what we were trying to do was just get a sense of how people's lives had changed. So we sat across kitchen counters, we talked to people about how their lives were impacted by the crisis. And all this was underneath this data that we conducted. And then we also spent time talking to a lot of startup business models. So we talked to everybody from a big company like Ford all the way down to a pickle entrepreneur at Brooklyn Brine, who is a skateboarder who basically built this really interesting local pickle business on the back of the success of social networks. So anyway, we'll kind of breeze through a whole bunch of that this morning, but I wanted to start, Lee started to talk a little bit about Detroit. This is an artist installation in downtown Detroit. It's about 2 blocks away from General Motors. If anybody's from Detroit, they may see this as they walk past. And it kind of echoes back to the hearkenings of the London phrase, keep calm and carry on during World War II. That's really the spirit that we found inside Detroit. Our first day on the ground, we were there, and we got interrupted by a German film crew that was packing up. First of all, try to find a place to stay in downtown Detroit. So we did find a place, and we were there with this German film crew, and they basically walked out and they said, we've got this amazing, unbelievable portrait of this post-apocalyptic America, America in decline. We've got all the pictures, and we're going to go back and show everybody. So we kind of started to tiptoe around, and what we saw was this unbelievable entrepreneurialism, right? So in Detroit, where the average price of a house is $18,000, right? What happens when that happens? There's no speculation. There's actually opportunity. You can see a real asset, and you go for it. And so people in Detroit are actually in there. You know, we interviewed artists living in $100 houses, you know. And this is a place, too, where the Silverdome sold for $543,000, right? You know, the price of a one-bedroom apartment in Manhattan. So there's tremendous opportunity, and you're going to start to see some of these stories as we kind of get into this. But first, real quickly, a little bit about the data. We work with Brand Asset Valuator. This is the largest database of brands in the world. We have data on over 16,000 consumers quarterly, and we basically started polling people. And I'm going to spend most of my talk this morning specifically focusing on the US, but the data kind of supports everything that I'm going to talk about. As I said, we went out on the road and we hit a bunch of different places, and what we kind of came away with is that there's this shift. There is this spend shift from mindless to mindful consumption. And it's more than just frugality. It's about actually awakening to the fact that consumers do have power. We have power of expression. We can actually use our dollars as a form of influence over institutions. And that's what we're going to talk about. And when we talk about values, you know, clearly that's a very politicized word. But what the values were that we uncovered were values that were very common sense, age-old American values. Things like community, like thrift, like stewardship, like self-reliance, which is a big theme as we get into this. Well, these consumer-led sort of expressions of values were emerging in some of the consumption data that we saw. So real quickly, who's the spend shift? Might be a spend shifter in this room. It's 55% of all Americans. It's basically people that are awakening to the fact that they do have this power. And we also looked around the world and also looked at the data across the different spectrums. And what you start to see is that they're not really these new age anti-materialists. They're not some sort of crazy fringe group. They're actually sort of a pretty representative portrait of sort of Main Street America. You know, equal levels of income, of politics, interest in politics, you know, Republican, Democrat, Independent, almost split. Highest percentage of the group by composition is millennials, but seniors were at really close to them. In fact, a lot of the interviews we found that the attitudes about millennials were very similar to those of the greatest generation.